Hi friends, I welcome you all for this session regarding basics of obstetric Doppler. First of all, why do we need to know about the basic pathophysiology behind obstetric Doppler? Only if you know the pathophysiology behind it, you will be able to interpret the Doppler findings better, and that way you will give better analysis of the outcome, and you will be able to predict it better, and you can help in the better management of the fetus. Doppler is used to assess the well-being of mother, placenta, and also the well-being of the fetus. In today's session, we are going to see the well-being from the maternal side and the placenta. Fetus we will see in the part 2. Maternal side means it is nothing but the uterus. Now we know the supply of the uterus is from the anastomosis formed between the ovarian and the uterine blood vessels. They form plexus and then supply the uterus. So when you come here, this is the uterine artery, this is ovarian artery. They form branches. This is arcuate vessel, radial. This is basal and spiral. So why am I showing this is the end artery of the uterine artery is the spiral artery. Remember, the end artery of uterine artery is the spiral artery, which is situated in the endometrium. Okay, so these are the main blood vessels that is going to undergo change during pregnancy. Remember this point. Now let's see the changes of the blood vessels in the uterus. Now this is the non-gravid uterus. Here you can see that the caliber of the vessel is small when compared to this is the changes during normal pregnancy. You can see that the caliber of the vessel is dilated. Not only here you can see the end artery, spiral artery is very well dilated when compared to the non-gravid uterus. Okay. Now let's see here. Here in non-gravid uterus, you can see that the entire branch from the uterine artery like arcuate, radial, basal, everything is narrow. There is no dilatation in the spiral artery. Here in the normal pregnancy, you can see that it has formed a wide channel at the end, grossly dilated, and even the other segments are dilated. But this forms a channel, wide channel. We will see about that in detail again. Now let's look at the placenta. This is the maternal side of the placenta. This is the fetal side of the placenta. Two umbilical artery and one umbilical vein. The umbilical artery branches itself. Here you have tertiary villi and the terminal artery, end artery of the umbilical artery is the artery in the tertiary villi. So remember, the umbilical artery ends in artery in the villi, tertiary villi. Okay, so end artery is artery in the tertiary villi. So uterine, I will repeat once again, the end artery of uterine artery is the spiral artery. The end artery of the umbilical artery is the villi, artery in the tertiary villi. Now, this is how initially the primary villi appears in the early gestation, maybe 7 to 10 weeks. Then, around 28 weeks, it proliferates better and then forms tertiary villi, primary, secondary, and tertiary branchings, giving rise to wide surface area so that lot of gaseous exchange can take place. When this change happens simultaneously, what happens? This is the formation of tertiary villi. Simultaneously, the syncytial trophoblast cells will, in this is the spiral artery, this is the endometrial region. So, or in otherwise in pregnancy that forms the decidua. So, it invades the spiral artery and you can see that it changes the lining of the endothelium and it forms a wide channel. In such a way, two changes happen. When this syncytial trophoblast enters and modifies spiral artery, two changes happen. What is that? One is the increase in the caliber of the vessel. You can find out the difference between here and here. There is increase in the caliber of the vessel, plus they are no longer under the influence of vasoactive substances. So this is the normal change that happens during pregnancy. You can see here. Okay. Now, this is what we saw already. So what happens? Lot of blood flows freely around the villi and you get the villi is almost full. It's almost like floating in the pool of blood. See here. The blood flows freely into the placenta and you get a good amount of as much as possible amount of exchange of gases. Now we know any Doppler flow pattern is determined by the vessel compliance and peripheral resistance of the end artery. Okay. So we have already seen what is the end artery for umbilical artery and uterine artery. For umbilical artery, it is the artery in the tertiary villi. For uterine artery, it is the artery in the or spiral artery. Okay. So we can see how it manifests in the Doppler pattern. Now we know the resistance in non-gravid uterus is very high. So when you take uterine artery Doppler in non-pregnant uterus, you can see there is hardly end-diastolic flow, little bit of flow, which means the PA is very high because the resistance here is high. Got it? Whereas in gravid uterus, there is free flow. There's no much obstruction here. Caliber is also dilated. So you have free flow of blood in the diastole. So the end diastolic flow is more and that's why there is decrease in PA in the case of normal pregnancy. However, in cases like preeclampsia, what happens is if this change doesn't happen adequately, or there is incomplete invasion into the blood vessels, into the spiral artery, that is called failure of remodeling of spiral artery. In that case, the vessel is not adequately dilated and it becomes sensitive to vasoactive substances too when compared to the normal pregnancy. In such a case, the vessel recoiling also will be high and also the caliber will be less, which leads to increase in the PI or decrease in the diastolic flow, and that elastic recoiling is also responsible for the early diastolic nodes that you see here. Now let us see the placenta. If the placenta is normal, it's not affected, then you know that there is quite a good amount of diastolic flow in the umbilical artery. Whereas if the placenta is affected or the villi, what I mean by placenta is nothing but the surface area of the villi that is available for gaseous exchange is destroyed up to more than 30%. Then you can see that there is a change in the umbilical artery. You can start to see high resistance flow. When the villar surface area is affected more than 60 to 70%, then you can get absent diastolic flow. This reversal diastolic flow happens when there is cardiac pump dysfunction. This we will deal it in detail when we see the Doppler of the fetus in the next part. Now, I would like to mention one important point is that between the normal placenta and 30% being affected, there is a gray area. That is, if the placenta is affected for example, 20%, it may still not manifest as high resistance flow, but there will be decrease in the diastolic flow. So this is very important point. We will see about this and the clinical significance of this later when we come to the next part of the video. Okay. Now what we have seen so far is umbilical artery, end artery, villus artery. When the more it is affected, there will be a decrease in the end diastolic flow or high resistance flow in the umbilical artery. Now I think I have explained you regarding the basics of umbilical and uterine artery. We can see how these changes can be assessed along with the changes in the fetal Doppler, and we can combine both and how we can assess the diagnosis and the better management of the fetus. We will see in the subsequent video.